they are successful, socially successful, not married. But I think what differs them from the Western world is that they are also not yet slept with any other man in their life. In Korean culture, like you should not really try to lure everyone in everywhere. And we think that the woman's lips is the symbol of that. And if you don't cover your mouth while laughing, it might feel like that woman is trying to show off her mouth. If the couple or two other men and women sleep together before marriage, not even before being a girlfriend or boyfriend, we call it they got into an accident.
Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of Dating Beyond Borders. Today, I'm thrilled to have Kaheva, a Korean content creator, joining us to dive deep into Korean culture. We'll be exploring everything from the unspoken rules you should know when traveling or moving to Korea, to the key differences between Korean and Western mentalities, and of course, what you need to keep in mind before starting a relationship with a Korean woman. Welcome, Kaheva.
Hello everyone. This is Kaheva. Oh, now let's have the word. Head, heart, and soul. This is what I always do.
I've seen
In my-
I've seen enough of your videos to know
yeah,
the
okay.
intro.
Perfect. Yeah.
Kaheva, I love your videos.
Yeah.
I
Thank
love
you.
your style. I love your voice. Listening to you is really soothing. I think people are gonna realize that during this podcast.
Oh, yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Your videos are really interesting, and you talk a lot about Korean culture and things that foreigners should know that are not so obvious. And one of the
Yeah.
things you talk about is respect in Korean culture. So my first question to you is, for foreigners that are traveling to Korea, that are moving to Korea, what are some things that they should keep in mind that might be considered rude, that are not considered rude, let's say, in the Western world?
So one thing is that I think you should not really try to look into people's eyes unless it is obviously okay. So if you're walking along the street, Koreans have a very unique ability that you don't seem to be looking at anyone on the street. But in the United States or in Canada or in Western countries, you just obviously just turn your head and you stare at them, right? And it's fine. And you make eye contact and like how you're doing like that. But in Korea, if you try to look somebody, especially when it's a stranger, they might think that you are being weird. Yeah. And even when you really try to talk to somebody, if you really stare them, but I think it's also similar for you, right?
Well, no, I mean, I think in Canada,
Yeah.
there's a point where it gets really uncomfortable if you look at someone. But I wonder if in Korea it also has something to do with status, because you talk a lot about how if someone has a higher rank or if you
Yeah.
work together, there's certain respect that you
Yeah,
need to
yeah.
show. Is that what it comes down to, or is there another reason for that?
Let's suppose that you are at a workplace and your boss is maybe teaching you a little bit maybe aggressively because you made some mistake. Let's pretend like that. And he or she is really talking in a fast speed to you about the instructions or fixing your mistakes. And if you keep on looking at their eyes while the boss is talking to you, Korean boss will think that is she making a rebellion against me? Yeah, but I think I find it in Western countries, if you're not looking at them, it means that you are not there, right?
Yes. So in
Yeah.
Korea, it's seen as a sign of a challenging authority in a way,
Perfect. Wow.
right?
Yeah. You
And
you you express it better than me.
no, I got that. Whereas in the Western world, it's more
Yeah.
that you're not present enough. You're not listening to the person. And it's
Yeah.
actually impolite not to look someone in the eye if you're having a
Mm,
conversation. And so is that only in terms of authority, or
mm,
in general, if you go on a date with someone
mm.
and two people are sitting, facing each other, can you look at
Yeah.
each other in the eye, or is it too much?
This is also a bit different. If you're a guy and if you stare at the woman for obviously like more than 40 seconds, you're on a date, and if you just look at them for like 40 seconds, then you must have something very important to say, like, I'm now making my honest by something, unless like that you don't really like look into the eyes as if you're reading their mind. If you're a guy, I think you should be more careful. But if you're a girl, I don't. If you're a girl, maybe okay. But if you're a guy, the Korean girls might think that this guy is a weirdo or something. If you look at
Mm.
them like more than like 40 seconds, yeah, let's say.
You
Yeah,
also mentioned that even when you're drinking something, you
yeah,
should not look into someone's eyes as you're drinking. Tell me
of
about
course,
that.
of course.
I love how you say, of course, as if it's so obvious. Whereas, like in the US or Canada, I live in
Yeah,
Canada,
yeah.
no one, if you start doing that, people will look at you and they say, "What's wrong with you? Why are you looking away?" It doesn't make any sense to
Oh,
us. And
yeah.
so I'm really curious about why it's such a
Mm.
thing in Korea.
Oh, it's it's also the same with like you should not really try to look into people's eyes. It is same as expressing that I'm not your enemy. That is Korean way of expressing like we are having a good time. But in Korea, if you let's say if you drink and if you're looking at them at the same time, it's like you have some hidden agenda for that person or something. Especially when you drink soju or something.
Mm.
Yeah, but if you look away and just drink it, it is just the expression that I know the culture and I'm totally in a very good intention in this meeting today. That is that expression that I'm just here to enjoy and I'm drinking like this. But if you're looking at others, it means that you know you did something wrong to me like that. People will accept it that way.
So, okay, let's say I
That
come
is
to
so funny.
Korea. I'm so
Yeah,
curious. I come to Korea
yeah,
and I'm having a conversation with someone in a restaurant. Let's say I'm sitting side by side with a friend. Let's say you and I are hanging out in a
yeah,
restaurant.
yeah.
At what point do I not look at you directly in the eyes? Or do I just not do that the entire time we're in the restaurant? I just don't know how I would go about it. So walk me through it.
Oh, okay. Let's suppose that Marina and I are at maybe Itaewon or something, and we are at the bar. We are having a good time, but even we had a long day together. We travel everywhere. So, and Marina suddenly drinks and look at me, and I will think that maybe I did some mistake to Marina. Marina is trying to send some message through her eyes because she's drinking like, you know that I don't like this place. Maybe I will accept it that way. Like drinking, maybe I will think like, oh, maybe Marina is uncomfortable here. Why is she looking at me? Like, because
Interesting.
yeah. But if you just drink it like this, I will think that everything is going fine.
Well, what's interesting as well, talking to you right now and just seeing the gestures that you have, and I always wondered about this because it's not just you doing it, but it's a lot of Koreans, and that is you cover your mouth when you laugh. And my question is,
Yeah.
what have you wondered why Koreans do that?
Okay. So it is mostly for women. And I know also in the maybe many comment section that some of the guys also claim that I do that too. Maybe mostly for East side men, but Asian women, maybe Korean women do it a lot. Like if you just Google it, maybe Korean actress covering their mouth, laughing like that in the Google image, the AI will find maybe my 500 different Korean actresses in everywhere in public stage, like, oh, like this. Because in Korean culture, like you should not really try to lure everyone in everywhere. And we think that the woman's lips is the symbol of that. And if you don't cover your mouth while laughing, it might feel like that woman is trying to show off her mouth to lure everybody, to let everyone look at her mouth straight forward, that she's trying to, I mean, seduce maybe mostly men while she shows off herself laughing. But if you hide it, it's the symbol that I'm a decent woman in this area of culture. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's more a way to keep yourself elegant and cute and
Yeah.
less sexual in a way.
Yes. But yeah. Oh, you really, you really arrange it very well. Yeah, yeah, exactly. To appear maybe less sexual, but if you maybe don't cover your mouth and if you laugh out loud, maybe people will think that it's the opposite. Yeah. Yeah.
Now, but my question is now too,
Mhm.
is that I've watched a lot of K-pop videos, and
Yeah.
a lot of the girls in those videos, I mean, they're quite sexy, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So how is it
Right.
that you cover your mouth because you don't wanna be too provocative, and yet, in K-pop, it's a lot of, you know what
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, right?
You got
Quite
the point.
sexy.
Wow, you thought wow, exactly the same one I thought that. I also thought that like Blackpink, Jennie, or many famous K-pop stars are almost like naked in their stage.
Mhm.
But also for them, when they're backstage, they should hide the fact that they have boyfriend in Korean K-pop industry, because if you are revealed that you have a boyfriend or girlfriend, if you're a K-pop idol men group, you will lose your fandom. But it doesn't happen for Taylor Swift, right? If Taylor Swift says that I have a boyfriend, and if she dates out and the paparazzis take her picture, she becomes even more popular because the right. But for Korean culture, if Blackpink Jennie is maybe she dated a lot of Korean, so she lost fandom. That happened in Korea, but maybe for international fans, maybe it was better.
Is it because she was seen as less pure in a way that she was dating around?
Yeah, if we want to understand simply, maybe that is also right, because Korean K-pop industry is also like maybe AI screen girlfriend and boyfriend feeling that you should give to your fans. I mean, the fans I'm referring to is the hardcore fans that they would pay a lot to just have a maybe face cam, because the companies let the singers have a face cam with their fans, only for the fans who are really devoted. But for those fans, if they figure out that he or she has a lover, they will move away to other singers that hide their boyfriends or girlfriends.
So it's like a boyfriend or girlfriend experience that you get with this,
Yeah,
which is
because
super interesting.
yeah, yeah, because if we say that a Hollywood star has a girlfriend or boyfriend, like maybe they can appear even more attractive and even more fun stories that they're gonna give to their fans. But for Koreans, like, I'm not going to look for another actress like that.
That is very interesting. I wasn't gonna jump
Yeah,
into dating yet, but,
yeah,
it brings me kind of to a point because apparently in Korea nowadays, it's
yeah,
really, dating, shows, dating reality shows are
yeah,
apparently huge, and it's funny because so much of that population is actually single, and so
yeah.
it's kind of this experience that people wanna live vicariously through someone else, like,
Mm,
"Oh, someone's going on a date. I don't
mm,
want this in my life, but I'm gonna watch
mm.
this," you
Yeah,
know? So
right.
it's something like this in a way.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, that's true. Because Korean people, even when they go on a blind date or something, like their attitude will be just like, oh, maybe I will not really take it seriously. Like let's suppose that they're gonna have a blind date at some hamburger shop, and they will say, maybe this is just me going to eat a hamburger while chatting with somebody, and they will just not really be desperate about anything at all, unless maybe it is love at the first sight or something. Yeah.
I wanna get
Mm.
back into dating in a little bit, but I
Yeah.
wanna finish the
Mm-mm.
topic of things not to do in Korea. So one of it is look into the eyes, drink, I suppose facing the other person. Um, what else should people keep in mind when they're traveling
Mm.
to Korea that might offend Koreans?
So the thing is that I really want to tell you this, that if you try to approach Koreans in English in Korea, as a Korean, I can honestly say that most of the Koreans are allergic to language other than Korean. I mean, if you speak Russian, English, French, any language, they will be allergic. So maybe it will be better if you use ChatGPT or Google Translator and turn on the voice, because it is not that they are being racist or something, because it is about language. Because Korean people do learn English in their middle school, high school, and universities, but they are very not confident about their English, and they're very afraid that they might make some mistakes while speaking English. So they're very nervous speaking out. So if you let's suppose it happens, I saw a foreigner who is asking for which subway station should I take to another for Korean, and they was like, and they will just go away because it's English. But if you speak Korean, they will be like an angel or something. Yeah.
Do you think, is it because Koreans are like kind of discouraged from making mistakes in life? Because there are certain cultures
Mm,
that are like, I can make mistakes, I'm fine. But I don't know if you've mentioned it somewhere that you feel like
mm,
Koreans are kind of afraid of
mm.
doing something wrong, making those mistakes.
Yeah. So I think it's mostly, making mistakes. They're afraid of making mistakes, but Korea is a country of education, so people are really into education, and they really take it as their own shame if they feel that they are less educated than the social standard. So they are very afraid to be revealed that their education level of language is lacking when they speak to a foreigner. Because even if a foreigner says that I'm fine, you can make mistakes while talking English to me, I'm fine, but they're not fine because they don't want to reveal their educational mistake or maybe deficient parts to anyone. Yeah.
Hey everyone, just a quick note to say that while I love putting these podcasts together each week, they do take a ton of time and effort. So if you're enjoying the show, please make sure to follow on YouTube, Spotify, wherever you're tuning in, and give this podcast a 5-star rating to help it grow. This support really helps me keep improving the show's quality. Thank you, and back to the episode. Is it important? Is that comparison and competitiveness, is this a big part of the Korean culture, do you feel like?
Yeah. Of course. Yeah.
In what ways do you notice it in society?
In society, I mean, if you just walk the street, you can feel it. If you just take a bus or take a subway, if you go to supermarket, you will feel the tension in everywhere in Korea. People are always in combat mode in some ways, even if you're in the very relaxing, let's say a cafe or at a restaurant. People are always in a combat mode because Korea had so many wars, but I think Koreans nowadays don't really realize that we had so many wars with Japan, with China, with many other countries. So Koreans are always in combat mode. So they're all, I mean, we say it as a joke that gun is illegal in Korea, but we say to each other that if we had guns in Korea, maybe we will finish ourselves using the
Wow.
guns to each other because we are very quite we are relieved that we don't have guns.
That's quite dark.
We say it as a joke, like if a person your reaction was so funny.
We're getting right
But
into the oh my god,
yeah,
Squid Games
okay,
special.
yeah,
Um,
mm,
now, okay, interesting. So
yeah,
because there's so much talk about Korea as this, I
mm,
mean, in a way, like a very perfect society, right? With
mm,
perfect the way people look, especially women, with the way women look, the way the men look as well, with the
yeah,
way that people
right,
dress, with the way people
mm,
work, how much
mm,
people work,
mm,
and so it's interesting that you say that there's like people are in combat mode. What does that mean?
yeah,
Are people like stiff, uncomfortable? Are people because and I can relate to that being Eastern European, like
mm,
Russians, um,
mm.
without getting into the politics and everything.
Yeah,
I'm Russian myself originally, and so
that's oh,
that's why.
здравствуйте,
Yes,
yeah.
that's it. And so Russians,
Yeah.
the way that I can recognize a Russian here in Canada on the street is exactly what you described, is that Russians look like they're in combat mode in a way
You know,
because they
oh,
look like really afraid um of people. Whereas like an American can walk with this big open smile like a golden retriever, a Russian is
yeah.
going to walk the streets feeling like they're going to get attacked by a stranger.
Oh,
And you really can
wow.
see it on their face. And so I wonder if that's what you mean with Koreans being like really stiff and uncomfortable walking on the street, like really in a way stressed out all the time. Is that what you mean, or
Mm.
do you mean something else?
I think Russians' combat mode is, I think, more realistic because
Yes.
it's about the actual physical
Nowadays,
interaction you're afraid.
unfortunately, yes. Yes. I know you do a lot of political videos, so this is right up your alley, but unfortunately, yes.
Yeah, so Koreans are afraid that other people might have some bad conceptions about them. And the number one conception they're mostly afraid of is that I might be recognized as an ignorant person, the
Mm.
person who doesn't know the social norm. To be recognized in that type of person is the biggest kind of shame to Koreans. I mean, like that person doesn't know their shame. If the other people think about you in that me in that way, maybe I will accept it as the biggest attack.
So what others think is incredibly important in Korea is what
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
saying. So this is very interesting because I
Mhm.
feel like you've touched upon this in one of your videos. You mentioned that like social harmony is super important. And
Yeah.
actually, I love this experiment that they did. And I don't know if you know about this experiment, but I talk about it a lot. They had kids that were Western, like American
Oh,
kids, and they
yeah,
asked them to look at a fish tank and they asked them what they saw. And they said they focused on the biggest fish in the fish tank. They
yeah,
did the same experiment with Japanese and Korean kids, and the
yeah.
Korean and Japanese kids, they saw the little things around the fish, like the little
Mm,
fish, the
yeah.
seaweed. So basically, they weren't just
Oh,
focusing on the individual, but they were
yeah.
focusing on all the elements in the fish tank, basically suggesting that, yes, Koreans and Japanese also are more about everyone together, about the whole like environment and the social harmony, which I've heard that in a way, the way you present your emotions and the way you present yourself, you're always so mindful of other people's feelings, which is why they say like the best airlines are actually
Mm.
East Asian Airlines because
Oh.
it's the best service, because it's genuinely the best service. And because it's in a way that it's like you think you want other people to be happy. And so you want
Mm.
social harmony. And I really want to hear your side of it because for me, it's fascinating how, how it works.
Yeah, and I always had a question to an actual Westerner here because this is the thing that Koreans struggle because our thinking this way in the Western countries like US or Canada because Korea and Japan, maybe their population is over 20 million, but no, 200 million, but still their land is not that big and it's an island country, Japan. And
Mm.
Korea also, we are very small. We are smaller than maybe any other single state in the United States. Still, the people are living maybe 50 million people. That sounds like nothing, right? Only 50 million people, but super small. Maybe I can show you the map later when I edit it. But so if you do something wrong, if you are a citizen of Russia, Canada, or US, you can move to other states. But if you do something wrong in Korea, you should migrate to other countries. If you're in Japan, you're in the island. So you are going to be kicked out to the ocean. So I think that's the case. So Koreans, even though you're just meeting any stranger, maybe a bus driver, you're going to be very polite, even though that is the last time you're going to visit that region of Korea, because you don't know what will happen to your life. But maybe in the United States or Canada, if you're doing a road trip and everyone you're going to meet, maybe you will never gonna see them again. So
Mm.
so Koreans and maybe Eastern nations, they always had a question for Westerners because you have the small talk culture, right? Small talk. And Koreans accept it very personally. And they think like if you had one small talk and you're gonna going to build up any relationship from that time on with anyone. So they feel very kind of sad if you had a small talk maybe with a cashier at Walmart, and the other day you met the same cashier, and the cashier might act coldly the other day. You can do it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
had a very nice small talk yesterday about getting a haircut, about the cereal that you're buying. Wow, have a good day. And the next day, the same Korean goes to the same cashier at Walmart, and she's going to advance the small talk they had yesterday because she took it personally, the Korean woman. But the
Mm.
cashier is like, Also, total is $50, like that. And the Koreans will, why is she being so mean to me? Like, we were going to have this, like, where we were in the process of building this up, and it happens everywhere. So so when I did studied in the US, many Koreans had small talks with American students on campus, and they thought maybe I made a friend today, many of my Korean friends, and they find out that I'm very frustrated. The girl, she was passing by, and I said hi, and she looked me in the cold eyes, and she just walked that way.
Do Koreans not have a small talk culture at all?
I mean, we don't really say it as a culture, but you can talk with a cashier if you find out that you have some nice feelings with that particular person. And if you do that, it means that from that day on, you are never going to neglect that person in any maybe environment.
For me, I feel like Koreans are so mindful and so respectful of other people because every time
Yeah.
I meet Koreans abroad, they're like the
Oh,
most polite people ever, you know? Um, Just as a fun fact, I was in Mexico a week ago, and I
okay.
decided
Oh,
because I love Korean food, I decided to go to a Korean restaurant in Mexico. I would never suggest this to any Korean that is traveling abroad. Don't go to a Korean restaurant in Mexico
okay.
because
In
it's not gonna
Mexico.
be the same. We have a lot
Okay.
of really great ones here in Toronto because we have so many Koreans living in Toronto,
Oh,
but
yeah, yeah,
it
yeah.
was really, really terrible, and actually, it was so yeah, that's the story. There was not really a story, but I just saw
Yeah,
Koreans and I saw how you really notice a difference when you're in Latin America and you notice Koreans
yeah.
and how
Mm,
they're so careful and they're so respectful, and
mm,
I really love that about the culture. But it's something interesting that you mentioned that,
yeah.
a Korean, if they see a red light,
Mm.
they are not going to walk that red light if there are people present, but they will if there's no one present. So it's not
Yeah.
about the red light, it's not about the rules, it's about the judgment of other people, right?
Yeah, perfect. You really make it very clear with just one
Thank
sentence.
you.
I will take like 30 other words, but you will just clear everything fine.
Thank
Wow.
you. That's what you get from doing 60. This is my 60th podcast. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Congrats.
Thank you
That
very
is
much. Thank
wow.
you. Thank you.
Wow. I appreciate what you do.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Mm.
Look at our polite conversation. Just like I said, Koreans are polite people. And that's why I love the culture. That's why it's so clean
Ah,
and so wonderful. Um, so it's not. So it's not the rules, it's more that
okay.
what other people think about you, right?
Yeah. Mm. And it is also because if you behave or act as if you don't care about what other people think about you, you are in Korea. If you do like that, you are signaling to others that I am an ignorant and uneducated person. The education here does not refer to like how many degrees you have, but it's about the maybe being being an non-ignorant person.
It's like social IQ, like
Yeah,
knowing how to
yeah.
act within a society.
Yeah, like know your shame like that. Because if you
Mm,
you can behave as if you don't care about anyone, you can be maybe naked and walk around the street. I don't care about what anyone else think about me, but other Koreans will feel attacked. I mean, others will feel ashamed instead of that person. Like, oh, I feel ashamed because of that person is shaming oneself like that.
interesting. So there seems to be a lot of pressure and expectation that is put on people from society, um, which is, I mean, in a way similar to Japan, but I
Mm,
think not as strong of a pressure.
yeah.
Um, Something unrelated, but you mentioned something really funny, and that is like Korean obsession with food.
Yeah.
And I that was really interesting that you said that your family has 4 fridges. Someone in the comments said, "My family doesn't have 4 fridges." Is it a thing in Korea? Is it just your family? What's going on?
I mean, I said I had four fridges, and I thought that everyone's gonna think, okay, you have four fridges. But the comment sections were like, you're lying. You will not have four fridges. You're lying. We have four. It's because of kimchi, because Koreans have separate refrigerator for kimchi itself. So we have kimchi, and the main fridge that all the people in the world have, kimchi fridge. And we have two other fridge to store our food. I mean, I thought the other people also do that. Like you can put the other two is mostly for kimchi.
So wait, you have 3 fridges from kimchi
Yeah,
and 1
because
regular fridge.
one fridge just the freezing and one just normal freezer, the normal refrigerator, and maybe two is mostly for kimchi.
What is the difference between the 2 refrigerators with kimchi? What is the difference between the kimchi?
Okay, so maybe it's like the how often you approach that refrigerator. So the other two refrigerator is in the other room, not in the kitchen. So for those two refrigerators, you're going to store the food that you're gonna eat for long term. Maybe some grains like rice, maybe not cooked yet rice, but we put it in the fridge so that there will be zero possibility that any bugs will tada like this. And the yeah, so we can really move around those four fridges in a very tactical way. Like for the fridge in the living room and or in the kitchen, we go to that fridge often. But if you think of a specific food that you want, then you're going to go to that refrigerator room and open that storage refrigerator and pick out the food. And I thought, how it is it not for Western?
Well, we have the fridge and we have the freezer, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
that's 2 fridges. But because we
Okay.
don't eat kimchi, I personally do.
Oh yeah.
I actually make kimchi. Yeah, I had to learn. Yeah.
Wow.
You know what? It's funny. I lived in Portugal for some time and there was no
Oh,
Korean restaurants anywhere.
wow.
And
Wow.
I basically had to start like I learned how to make kimchi because there was nowhere to go. So then
Yeah.
I started making it. But that's how I know
Wow.
it. But I didn't have a separate fridge, of course.
Wow.
But it's interesting because you mentioned that, and I really love this, by the way, that food is like huge in Korean culture, that everyone's always
Yeah.
asking, have you eaten? And then if
Yeah.
you're sick, people bring food, even if you're not
Yeah.
feeling well and you cannot eat, people still
Yeah.
bring food. What is
Yeah.
this big thing with food in Korea?
It's because Koreans had the certain period that we were very maybe poor country period, and that time people asking like have you eaten was the literally it had that meaning like had you had like breakfast or something, but but the society changed, but the people still has the linguistic habit is
Mm.
still transcended to us. So we are still asking, like, have you eaten? So there's a joke that, I mean, North Korea is also Korea. So we say that there's the number one lie that North Koreans talk to each other is that, have you eaten? And they will say yes. And that is the number one lie that North Koreans talk to each other because they can't be eating regularly. So yeah, they're
Yeah.
Koreans too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not to
Yeah.
talk about North Korea. That wasn't going to be a subject,
Okay.
but
Okay.
there was a really good documentary that I saw
Okay.
that maybe you saw about North Korea, and there was like
Yeah.
a guy who went to North Korea to film a video, but because
Mm.
of all the rules, of course, you
Yeah.
can't film a video in Korea without people
Yeah.
intervening, and so
Mm.
they basically staged it. They staged the actors in the living
Oh.
room, the food, and they got the actors to repeat the lines many, many times. And it was something
Oh.
like, "Oh, please take some kimchi, take this." But it was like a poor
Ah.
family. They just put them in this
Mm.
house. It was all
Oh.
props, right? It wasn't real. So he
Ah.
filmed how many times they said it. They were like,
Yeah. Mm.
cut again.
Mm.
So that was really interesting. But
Oh, that's interesting. Mm.
it's very interesting. I'm fascinated by North Korea. But going back to South Korea, there was, and you talk about this as well, is that there's like this big thing with watching other people eat. This
Yeah.
is super bizarre for me. It's
Okay.
always, in a way, I feel like it's always a bit sexual. It's always this
Oh.
tiny girl with this
Yeah.
big cake or this big
Yeah.
this, and she's
Yeah.
always stuffing it in her mouth really, really
Mm.
fast.
Yeah.
Why is it so popular in Korea?
I mean, yeah, because I think like number one reason maybe there are two types of people that watch that type of videos. Number one group of people is the people who want to eat that food and who is going to eat that food that the mukbang YouTuber is eating. But the other type of people are maybe sometimes people like me who are on a maybe on a diet or who don't really want to eat. So they watch the video and they fulfill their satisfaction instead by just watching the YouTuber eat and now I am feeling full because I saw somebody eat so aggressively, like making their body like this. There are two types of people. So if you look at the comment section in the Korean YouTube mukbang YouTubers, Koreans say like, I was on a diet and I really craved for maybe tteokbokki or bibimbap, and you watched that bibimbap mukbang and you try to calm down instead of eating by yourself. But the other type of people, maybe they just but
The men.
the men who are actually going to eat. But the women, they just watch it because they don't actually want to eat. Yeah.
Do you personally watch these videos yourself often?
Yeah, I watch it like when I really cut down my eatings and maybe at midnight, maybe like 1 a.m. I'm so hungry that I can't fall asleep and I watch mukbang YouTube videos.
I feel like it would have the opposite effect on me. I feel like I would want to
Yeah.
eat more if I watch someone eating, you know?
Yeah, to be honest, I think that's the case. Maybe after watching it, maybe 2 or 3 days later, maybe I also eat a lot. But at the moment, I can pressure down my temper or the cravings. So I,
It's
yeah,
interesting too, like, it seems to be like
yeah,
there's pattern with Korean culture that you're, like,
yeah,
watching other people do this and you're watching other
yeah,
people do that. It's a lot of,
yeah.
like, watching other people either consume food or the boyfriend-girlfriend experience or, you know? And it's very interesting,
Oh,
right? Like,
oh,
I mean, it's a thing all over the world nowadays, right? We're
yeah.
watching other people live their
Mm.
lives, but it seems to be more of a thing in Korean culture. Have you noticed that? Have you thought about it?
Oh, you're very good at like. I, I mean, as you say, I totally like, how do you say, agree. I think you also said that all the other people also, maybe everyone in the world do the live streaming, but for Koreans, it's like hardcore.
Hmm.
Yeah, I get it. Wow.
I really do wonder why. And again, it's not just Koreans. I noticed this in Japan. This is a
Yeah,
huge thing in Japan. We know this, right?
yeah,
Like just the boyfriend girlfriend experience is taken to a whole other level in Japan.
yeah, yeah,
And also the cafes and all this kind of the way they approach
yeah.
different quirky things,
Yeah,
they really
yeah, yeah,
quirky.
yeah, yeah,
But so
yeah.
we're not talking about Japan, but in Korea, it's
Okay.
also a really big thing. And I've always wondered why. Maybe you can make a video about this because I think it's
Yeah,
interesting because
yeah,
I struggle to understand why it is.
yeah. I think it's because Koreans, as I said, Korea is a very small society, but there are small villages in everywhere in the world. Maybe a village in maybe a town in Canada might just consist of a single family. Maybe that can happen. But maybe for Koreans, we think that every other Koreans maybe are part of their family or something, because I think it's because the military culture, because military is an obligation for the men above 20 years old in Korea.
Mm,
So even though you don't have any son or any men in your family, the other son or men in other family will go to the military to protect the family that doesn't have a son. So
mm.
maybe in that case too, Koreans feel that, oh, maybe they are sacrificing for us. I think that also happens because it is obligation. Like the other countries, that is going to be our job. But for here, you're just going to spend a year and a half.
You also talk a lot about Confucianism. We're not going to give a whole history lesson here,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
what are some points that you've noticed? Like, how did it like affect the society? Confucianism.
yeah. So Confucianism is the religion that serves education, and education is mostly about reading and writing, but it's also like showing the respect for education is also included. So it's a
Mm.
Confucianism. Just if it's so difficult, you can just think that Confucianism is the mindset that puts education as the number one priority. So If you go to a Starbucks in Korea, in South Korea, you will find so many people studying, not just doing the laptop, but people are actually doing their SAT studying in cafe. Even the high school students, the teenagers, and maybe university students, they will study at a cafe. But the interesting fact is that Korean people kind of worry to talk aloud when anyone studying is around them, even though it's in a public place. You're free to talk in cafe. You go to cafe to chat with other people. But if other person is studying beside you, since it's a country of education, you don't really want to bother them because studying is the number one priority of this country. And unfortunately, you met someone just beside you studying in the cafe. And sometimes it's very hot topic, which is a very nice question because it's a very hot topic nowadays in Korea to talk like, is it okay to study in cafe? And somebody is studying in McDonald's or KFC in Korea. And the problem is that the one studying will sometimes talk to the other group of people. Can you please lower your voice since I'm studying? So this happens and this is on the news. Like people had an argument at a public cafe today and they called the police and the person who was studying called the police because the other yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That's crazy. Yeah. That's a unique case of yeah.
Let's transition into dating somehow.
Dating, yeah. I want to talk about
From studying to dating.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
feeling great.
You're feeling ready for it.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
okay, there are a few things that I wanted to ask you, but one of them is that um Korea is said to have like basically a decline in marriages and
Yeah.
kids.
Yeah.
And also apparently in people are just not that interested in dating anymore, saying it's like
Yeah.
it's too expensive, it's too maybe there's a lot of pressure on people and
Yeah.
maybe they don't see a point in it anymore. Obviously it's not just
Mm.
Korea, it's around the world, but Korea's
Yeah, yeah.
somewhere at the top.
Yeah. Yeah, Tom.
Have you noticed this personally? I mean, with any friends that you have, or have you thought about this phenomenon at all?
Yeah, of course, because there are not that many people having babies around me. It's because there are not many people who are getting married.
Hmm.
So, which is very one thing you must remember about Korean dating or marriage is that there is almost no people who are going to have a baby outside marriage. Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So whenever Koreans watch like Western TV shows or movies, you will gonna see a couple with who have two kids between them and they are not yet legally married. And Koreans find it, wow, that's crazy like that. Not
Mhm.
crazy, not crazy. But we think that what Koreans think that is, oh, can I say it? Maybe I
Yes, of course. Say it. Say it. Tell me the truth, please. I want to
I
hear the
mean,
truth.
I mean, like in Korean culture, people, okay, let's say this. People don't really have babies because they don't really get married because
Hmm.
it means that once you are going to have a baby, you must get married. And if you're married and if you have a baby, you must be married and you're going to take full responsibility for the rest of your life by the legal bondage because the legal bondage will always let you not walk away that easily,
Hmm.
right? We thought that this is very natural, but if we have, yeah. So so there are many cases in Korea where if the couple has a baby and if both of them think that we are not a good match to get married legally, if it happened in a Western country, maybe they will just decide to raise the kid together but not get married legally, right? And live together in the same
Hmm.
house.
Yeah.
But in Korea, they instead choose to send the kid abroad to let the kid adopted to a family in Canada. So there are also many Canadian Koreans or American Korean Americans who are adopted abroad. Because it is not that the parents don't want the kid, but they don't want the kid to be raised in Korea as a kid who doesn't have a legally married parent. It is
Interesting.
because, it is
Mhm.
because it is not that the kid will be facing direct abusive actions of other people. It is because the kid is gonna face an indirect humiliation living in Korea.
So is he going to be called? So in the Western world, we have something called like a bastard child, or that used to be the case at least. If you just
Yeah,
have the mom, like a single
yeah,
mom raising the kid, but in Korea, if you're living together but you're not married and you have kids out of wedlock, so to speak,
yeah, yeah,
then
yeah,
they get a lot of just not discrimination, but like a lot of judgments, right? Like pointing fingers, like, oh, your parents are not married.
yeah. But yeah, that's right, that's right. Yeah, you're not married. That kind of pointing fingers, but it is more stressful, and it will make that kid go crazy because those shaming things are done all indirectly. So
Mhm.
even in the school, maybe no kids will speak out that you don't have a parent, but but then acting like indirectly different because of that kid's special situation is very, very terrible. So for the happiness of the child's future, the so Korea is actually number one country of the adopting kids to foreign countries. While we have the lowest birth rate,
Wow.
while we have like zero point 0.5 or something, we are sending the very rare babies abroad.
That's crazy. I had
That
no
is,
idea. That is
yeah,
absolutely mental. That makes no
yeah,
sense. That's
yeah,
really
that
sad
makes
as
us
well because then,
very
like,
sad.
in order to have a child, you need to get married. A lot of people don't want to
Yeah,
get married because it's
yeah,
expensive, whatever. Then they're
yeah,
not going to have kids, and the population's going to die out eventually,
yeah,
And
yeah,
um, talking about the beginning stages of the relationship, because
yeah,
as a
yeah,
Korean woman, and you're the first one
yeah.
I've had on the podcast. I've had
Oh,
David, who's Korean, but he's a
yeah,
guy.
yeah,
So
I
I
saw
know that
that.
people are
Yeah.
going to be really interested to hear your side of what it's like dating a Korean woman. And
Hmm.
tell me, Kaheva, is it important for you that the man really takes the lead in the beginning of the relationship or throughout the relationship? That, like pays the bill, picks the restaurant, picks you up.
Mm.
What do you think? And for maybe Korean women in general, the ones that you know at least.
Okay. Class 101 for
What
dating.
foreigners need to know, or,
Class 101, what foreigners need to know is that number one, you said about paying for the first date, let's say, because we want to talk about detailed things.
Yes.
In Korea, there are many times that if the girl doesn't really like the guy, they pay the bill.
Hmm.
Yeah, because if the girl likes the guy and if the girl wants to have a second date, even though they can pay, they will not pay because so that the girl will say that, oh, next time I will buy for you, so that they're gonna be a second date. But if the girl thinks that this is gonna be the last time we're going to have a date today, they will rush to the counter and click the card, insert the card. I'm going to pay because yeah.
Mm. You don't wanna see the
Yeah.
person again, and you don't wanna owe them anything.
Yeah. So, but there are also some cases that the girl likes the guy and at the same time they pay the bill. But this might give the message to the guy because the Korean guys also know this custom. And if the guys after the date, he will talk to his guy friends like, the girl paid for me, and the other guy friends like, oh, you're down with that woman because she paid for you. It means that she doesn't like you, and the guy will be frustrated. So for the girls out there, if you want to pay for the guy and at the same time you want to date the guy the second time, then you should let him know that you want to have the second date.
Mm,
So if you paid for the first date, if the girl, and if she wants the second date, and if she's just waiting, maybe you will not have a second date because the guy accepted it as a rejection.
mm.
Yeah. If you pay, yeah. Yeah.
Do Korean guys typically do that? Do they pay usually?
They pay usually. that's a default. I mean, just the first date. I mean, I mean, because we do it because they want to get the message from the girl.
Mm,
If the girl is say, "Oh, thank you for the meal or it's lunch or something," and the guy will think that, "Oh, maybe things are going well. We are going through the traditional track." But if the girls will suddenly say, like, "Let's split halfways, half, or I will send you the rest of the half through your Venmo or something," and the guy will think that, "Oh, maybe she hates me." Or
So
yeah,
it's still fairly traditional in that sense that, like, the man
yeah,
still, if there's interest, the man still pays for the woman.
yeah. And if yeah, there might be a case that the man doesn't like the woman, and but in also in that case, the man pays because he doesn't want to maybe hurt that woman's feelings.
Mm.
Yeah, because we're humans, we understand that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
One thing that's very interesting when I was talking to David, he gave an example of dating a
yeah,
Korean. He said that this really surprised me, and I really want to get your thoughts on it.
yeah.
That Korean women can be quite, I don't want to say possessive, but in general, the culture is very,
Mm.
it's very intense. Where it comes with relationships, if you're in a relationship, like you are together, and you should be. You know, sending messages every couple of hours and checking in and letting you know where they are, and if there's an anniversary, you better remember every single one. Um, as a Korean woman, tell me, do you think this is true, false?
Ah, okay. So I think it depends on the people. It depends on the people. Maybe there may be some people who don't really care. We can text message every other week or something. Maybe there might be that type of people, but those people also change their mind. Maybe because of certain people that they meet. Maybe some people have they trusted that person, but because of less messaging, she wasn't able to realize that whole thing going on to the other party. So text messaging the every day, you do. So what I'm curious is that you don't really there is maybe almost no couple who do that. Maybe texting, let's say, every other 3 hours.
No, I think, well, when I'm in relationships, my
Yeah,
ideal
yeah,
is that someone texts me, yeah, I would say a few times a day for sure, because
yeah,
then what's the point of a relationship if you're not messaging or
yeah,
calling or something. What he
yeah,
was saying is that his example was
yeah,
he was
yeah.
in a meeting, and the girl got really, really offended that he didn't text her back, um, like in 2 hours, and he was in a meeting, and
Mm.
she said, "Well, you had hands, so you should have texted me anyways." I thought that was really funny, and I thought, "Is this like a big Korean thing?
Oh,
Or is this just like a one scenario, you know?"
okay. So I admit that there are certain type of maybe mostly I admit that mostly Korean women, there are certain group of women that puts much importance in responding promptly, maybe instantly, because and it is very important when you are going to drink alcohol with other people. And if the guy is drinking alcohol in a soju place like samgyeopsal, grilled barbecue, like that, and if she knows that he's in that situation, maybe that type of woman will ask you to text message her that I'm now drinking soju with Mr. or Mrs. or my boss with some people. And if you hide some members of that group, like if
Mm,
you don't talk about a beautiful girl, that she's there too. And if she figures out, then you will get into trouble. Because,
interesting. Mhm.
yeah, because Koreans put much importance in food, as you said, and we also drink and eat a lot at the same time. And Koreans are aware that if you start to drink, Koreans think that anything can happen there. And their imagination is so wonderful that they're going to ask you to text message every 30 minutes, even though you're drunk.
Would you consider yourself a jealous person?
I mean, I mean, it depends. It depends. But
Mm,
jealous? I mean, like, it depends on the attitude of the other person. If the person is like trying to be maybe a child, like a 7-year-old child, and if he's like, like I had soju with like beautiful princess today. How do you think about that? And that is like,
mm.
woo, like that. But if you say like you had a business meeting, you don't want to be not respecting yourself by
Yeah.
starting a conversation about it, right? Yeah, yeah.
Now, there's also this thing with Koreans celebrating every single anniversary, and
Yeah.
do you think this is true?
Yeah.
Celebrating like 200 days, 200 days, 300 days, something like this.
You should celebrate
I
every
would love
100
to
days.
celebrate every single anniversary. I've had arguments with my ex-boyfriends because
Okay.
I said we didn't celebrate enough anniversaries. So
Yeah.
I'm curious, but I feel like
Okay.
Koreans, they really take it like far. I mean, I think in a nice way, because it's nice to celebrate. But do you think
Yeah.
this is stereotype about Korean culture, or is this genuinely like important to do this?
And now I'm having an existential
Existential.
crisis because I thought this is a
No.
norm.
You're like, I am Korean. I just realized. I
I
didn't
just
know.
realized. I mean, what I thought is that Western people would be celebrating more than us because you
Mm.
guys celebrate Halloween. It's a big thing. You celebrate a lot Christmas, but Christmas and Halloween we
It's
don't
not
really celebrate.
it's not romantic though. We're talking about a romantic stuff, like anniversary, you know?
Oh,
So for example, we've been in a relationship for 100 days. Let's celebrate
okay.
that, let's give each other presents.
Yeah,
Or, dressing alike, also, like that used to be a thing with like Koreans. I'm wearing
yeah,
this and you should be matching me because we're a couple. These
yeah,
kind of like really cutesy things, you know?
yeah. I think you really care about the anniversary or wearing the similar outfit if you think that this is the actual relationship that you're having. I mean, because Koreans think that you are going to get married if you date for maybe over a year. So
Mm.
maybe it's mostly women who put much importance in anniversaries because if the man starts to not really celebrate the celebrating days, the woman will think that, oh, it's been over a year and he started to not celebrate our anniversaries. Maybe we are not going to get married. So the couple, if they want to maintain their relationship, maybe they can date maybe 5 years before getting married. And if they want to make sure to not let the others go away, they keep on celebrating the celebration days to make sure that am going to I am going to marry you.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
That means that
Yeah.
in Korea, when you
Yeah.
start dating, I had a conversation with a couple recently on the podcast. She's Brazilian and he's Korean,
Okay.
and he said that in Korea, when you get into you don't date around. Like in the
Yeah.
US, maybe you've noticed this. People
Yeah.
date around and they have the conversation, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But in Korea, it feels like people date more with the intention of this is a serious relationship that's going to
Yeah.
lead towards something. Correct me
Yeah.
if I'm wrong. Um,
You're correct. I'm
Okay,
amazed.
okay. So
Yeah.
it's more like there's a serious intent with people to get into more of a serious relationship right away.
I would say yes, because we also have the situationship stage too. We call it some. That is the abbreviation from something. We call it some in Korean pronunciation. Like they are on a some, like a some. And
Mm,
you can have like 20 sums at the same time.
wow. Okay.
You can do it if you are Superman or something. But if you choose one person and if you think that this is the one, you should arrange the 19 other sums.
What do you mean?
You should arrange them. You should finish the sum period for the rest of the 19
Mm,
people. Yeah, yeah, I admit that I think Korean people can really quickly admit, like, if you're if you have four sons, and if you decide this one to be your girlfriend or boyfriend, you should immediately arrange the other three and define this one as a girlfriend or boyfriend. But what I found very interesting about your culture is that you are very hesitant about labeling yourselves as girlfriends or boyfriends, right?
Yeah, so it's different because let's say Russian people
Yeah.
get
Ooh.
serious fast.
Oh.
Commitment is really
Oh.
important. Yeah.
I like
And
that. Yeah.
so when it comes to Americans, I could never relate to that. I'm in Canada. This is very similar to the US. I can never really understand that because it's a lot like shopping around. Oh, let me see
Oh.
you. Let me see you. Let me, so you cannot really decide and pick a person to get serious with. So
Yeah.
I think I like the Korean way. I mean, I didn't know
Okay.
about the sums, but
Yeah.
I like that it's still there's more of a commitment and mind with one
Yeah.
person. Which
Mm.
is where like you think the Western world is all like they're just dating around endlessly. And I can tell you that's true in a lot of countries, but not I
Yeah.
depends on like where in the world. But US
Yeah.
for sure. I think it's very much like that. That people really struggle
Mm.
to get serious with one person until they've had a conversation. But they can date
Yeah.
around for a long time. They can be sleeping together for months,
Yeah.
and it means nothing, which is really, really sad in my opinion.
Yeah.
Um,
Mm.
so that's interesting. So then like
Mm. Okay. Yeah.
people
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, then in Korea people have sex fast or not, or that it really depends? Because you
Oh.
didn't I didn't know that people had situationships, so
I'm
I'm really
glad that you
curious.
brought up this. I'm very glad that Marina brought this one up because I was thinking and I must say this or else I will not fall asleep tonight and you brought it up. So I'm so glad. So thank you.
I'm so happy you wanted to talk about the
Yeah.
sex. Tell me.
Yeah. Because let's talk about this. Okay. I mean, you can sleep with other individual before marriage. And there are many Koreans who can just sleep in the first day you saw each other. But even though those people are aware that if they, and Koreans have a word expression, is very funny expression that if the couple or two other men and women sleep together before marriage, not even before being a girlfriend or boyfriend, we call it in Korean language. If I directly translate, we say that they got into an accident.
Oh, how do you say it in Korean?
사고 쳤다.
Mm.
사고 is accident. 쳤다 is got into. So like James and Julia got into an accident. And I mean, if you say like they got into an accident like that, it means like, oh, really? Like that. It doesn't mean that they had a car accident. And other people will immediately understand like, 사고 쳤대, like that. They made an accident and, oh, and sometimes it has a meaning that the woman they got to make a baby. We say that they got into an accident because they should then have a wedding.
Mm.
So I also admit that there are Koreans who are so making our country proud that I mean, like those type of people, you can go to a bar in Itaewon where there are many foreigners. There are certain type of Koreans who like to go to Itaewon and meet other foreigners and freely act because they feel less obligated.
Mm.
Because if you do the same thing to Korean women, and if you accidentally get to have a baby with a Korean woman in the first night, you must get married.
Is this still a thing? Is this still prevalent like that if you have sex before marriage, this is considered bad?
I mean, it's oh, okay, okay. Wow, your question is making it more clear. I mean, it's not bad, but I think there is very high risk
Mm.
in if you do it in Korea to Koreans, Koreans. So
Mm.
it is okay if you got to have no baby made in that day. But if there's a baby made, maybe you should either choose to send the baby to be adopted abroad, or you should get married. So immediately book the wedding ceremony place, or other people will figure out that the woman is, her belly will get bigger.
What about the woman having an abortion or the woman having a child on her own? Obviously, the second option doesn't seem very good because yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So it is the AB thing for your censorship. Maybe if I say AB thing to erase the baby, that is illegal. But as in every other countries too, there is some illegal places that do it.
Is it
But
illegal to get it in Korea?
yeah, totally illegal.
Really?
And it is very controversial because the hospital will not even do it even when the pregnant woman is in the emergency room. And if they don't do it, if they don't erase the baby, she is going to pass away. And they didn't because they were so afraid about the legal things that they're gonna
Oh,
face. So they didn't do it, and the woman and the baby both died. So it was on the news. Yeah,
wow. I had no
yeah,
idea. So in
yeah.
all of Korea, even in Seoul, it's illegal
Oh,
to we can say get an abortion. It's fine. It's illegal to
yeah.
get an
Okay,
abortion.
okay.
That's really crazy, and that's very interesting. And then when you mentioned accident, did you mean that it's an accident only if you make the baby, or if you have sex, it's also considered an accident?
Okay, let's say like maybe not in a bar. We say it as ex. I mean, you go to a bar and sleep with other stranger. Maybe that is not really an accident because you wanted that to
Mm.
happen, right? That is not an accident, maybe. But if you were maybe seeing someone, maybe in a workplace, you were dating, and you slept together before getting married, then you got into an accident. We say that.
So it's still not common for people to sleep together before marriage because you mentioned that people have situationships, right? So
Yeah.
how does that work then? Or are a lot of people like this? A lot of people are like this.
Okay. So I think what we should really keep in mind is that what I'm talking about is the actual Korean people,
Mm,
because there may be some Koreans who sleep with 20 other some relationship people, right?
mhm.
Not yet boyfriend yet, but just dating and sleeping with 10 people at the same time. Maybe there are type of people in Korea too, but what I'm talking about, because if I say to the comment section, the people will say like, how do I do to sleep with Korean men or women? And I would say like, go to the bar, and they would say like, that is not what I want, right? So I'm
Mm,
talking for that case because you said you don't want this option. So if you want the complicated, crazy option of the Korean way, not many couples sleep before marriage, and it is very general. So if you do, we say it, they got into an accident, and it implies the meaning that, oh, they gotta get married. They gotta get married.
I see. So what you're saying is there's party people that go to
Yeah.
bars and drink
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah,
party.
yeah,
Those people are more the exception than the rule, and then the rest. Like if we talk about generally, there's
yeah,
still a stigma associated with having sex before marriage in a way for women, especially, I suppose.
yeah. So what's very interesting is that even those party people, let's say a man, let's suppose Mr. Kim in his 30s, he was partying for his whole life, and now he wants to get married. Then he is also going to act the same in this way, like dating a girl, and he's not going to sleep with this particular girl before marriage because now he suddenly wants to get married.
So then
Yeah.
you separate people by the purpose. So like, okay, this is
Mm,
a one night stand, it means nothing. But if we're gonna
mm,
get into a serious relationship, I'm gonna
yeah.
treat you with the respect, and
Mm,
we're gonna hold out on having sex because we want something serious. So it's like,
yeah.
in the Western world, we say Madonna whore complex.
Oh.
So Madonna
Oh.
whore, it's like
Okay.
the woman is either a Madonna or she's a whore. So Madonna is someone you marry, and a whore is someone you
Yeah.
sleep with. And so men in their
Uh,
head, when they meet a woman, they have this
mm,
oh, is she a Madonna or is she a whore? Because if she's the
Mm,
future wife of, future mother of my kids, she's the
yeah.
Madonna. So they
Yeah.
say the Madonna whore complex that men separate into two.
Oh.
So it's interesting. It's
Well,
kind of what you're
this
saying is like,
yeah, yeah.
if it's a serious relationship, but the man is like, has slept around, or the woman,
Mm-mm.
I
Yeah, yeah,
suppose,
yeah,
has slept
yeah.
around, then she's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
no, I'm a virgin. We're going to wait a year to have sex because it's a serious relationship.
Mm, yeah. Okay. Oh, so did we have something in common?
Yeah,
I mean,
I mean, I think it depends so much because, there are certain cultures I focus on where women are so close, so equal to
oh,
men that a woman can have sex with so many men and she can be very like Sweden. Okay, I talk about Scandinavia. Women can
yeah,
tell a man, oh, I've had 30 partners, and he'll be like, okay, that's cool. But in other
yeah,
societies,
yeah,
it's not cool, so it depends
yeah,
so much. But still, I think it's very interesting that in Korea, someone could sleep around so much, but when it's a serious relationship, then people wait before marriage with having
yeah,
sex.
yeah.
That's super interesting.
Okay, if I try to develop, because your question made me made me think more deeper about our thing, because because it is not going to be easy for that type of people, the partying people, to keep it before marriage.
So what happens? Yes,
It
what
is not
happens?
going to be easy for them because human is a habit. We are slave
Yeah.
for our own habit. And it is not going to be easy because what you did for your entire life. So if you go into an accident with a person that you finally want to get married, the reason we don't really do that is if you get pregnant, if you get to have a baby, then you should immediately book the wedding hall. What Koreans feel very, very important is to not let the other people in the wedding ceremony realize that the woman is already having a baby in her belly.
Mm.
So even though you want to marry that person, but if you have an accident and make a baby before marriage, then you should rush to go to the wedding hall and book it. And that is not going to be pleasant. So that's the reason why people don't really do that even. I mean, that's also one of the reason, I think.
People can have sex, but as long as they don't have the accident, as you said, as long as they don't obviously
Yeah.
have sex, as long as
Yeah.
other people don't know they're having sex, maybe.
Yeah. So I thought this is very normal because between even between the couples who are already sleeping with each other, they never let anyone know that fact. And sometimes people also want to hide that the woman slept over maybe at a guy's place that night, even though they are publicly, officially girlfriends and boyfriends. They posted in Facebook, Instagram, everywhere their couple photos, but they still don't want to like, don't want to let other people see with their eyes that they actually, yeah,
Yeah, that is very different. That is very different from let's say the Western world because
yeah,
in the Western world, or let's say in the US or Canada, you can go on a date and you can have sex by date one, let's be honest,
yeah,
but also date
mm-mm,
three, right? And it's
mm,
totally considered normal, and everybody knows that this couple is having sex, and it's okay. And
mm,
even when
yeah,
you're visiting family members,
mm,
it's normal to sleep in the same bed before marriage. Like the parents will say,
mm-mm,
"Oh yeah, you can take the bedroom." Not everywhere, obviously, but like when we're talking about US, Canada, the UK,
yeah,
Australia, Europe, all of Europe, I think most of
yeah,
Europe. Um, it's totally okay. So this is very different because then
yeah,
again, it still matters that you're pure and innocent in a way into the relationship. Is that what it
yeah.
is? It's like that you want to remain pure, or that people don't make
Ah,
any judgments about who you are as a person?
mm, yeah, because if you okay, you can let other people know that you are obviously having sexual relationship with the person, but if you do that, you are now announcing this is the one that I'm going to get married.
Oh, wow.
So I'm very interested of your reaction is very it's a
The
gem.
pressure
It's
is
a
on.
gem. It's a gem. Oh wow. So in Korea there are also so many couples. I mean the reality is quite different compared to the comment section people, right? In the comment section people will say, "Oh, I saw so many Korean women so naughty," right? But there are so many Korean couples that travel together all over the world, maybe, but they sleep in the same bed, but they literally just slept in the same bed.
So they don't have sex.
There are many cases like that too.
Wow. Again, double
But and
wow.
then, and I never thought that this is a wow thing.
Yeah, it
We
definitely
say
is.
that, they can do that. Okay, maybe like that.
So I think it's interesting that you said, because okay, yeah, you can have a relationship and not and have sex, but then the pressure is that you need to get married to this person.
Mm-mm.
I just think it's really difficult if you're dating someone for like a year to be in
Yeah,
the same bed with them for a year and not
yeah,
for anything to happen, if you're attracted to each other. And
yeah.
I understand if it's like the Middle East and there's like taboos, then you wouldn't sleep together. But in this case,
Okay.
especially if you've had some experience before, you've
Mm,
already had
mm,
sex,
mm.
I think it would be very, very difficult. And I just think then it seems like it's about there's like a pressure to get married to someone that you're having sex with, right?
There's a pressure.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Yes. Yeah. So what I'm talking, yeah. So in the comment section, people will say like, I would respond them like, go to a bar and you can get what you want in Korea. You said you want to have a liberal sexual life here. And they said, that's the not type of the people that I want. If I get the response, and do you mean that you want the decent Korean woman? And they say yes.
mm.
Then mostly maybe the woman will really clearly let you know that nothing is going to happen in this room tonight. Then nothing is going to happen.
So then people probably get married pretty fast in Korea if that's the case.
Yeah, so I'm curious, like it is either you get married in your late 20s or you will get married in your early 40s,
Wh-
maybe.
Why late 20s or 40s? What happened to the 30s?
Because people who really think about marriage as their must-do option, maybe they will get married in their at least in their late 20s or early 30s. But if they have no other thoughts and maybe I can use my liberty, my freedom, and they will just spend their mid 30s like and they suddenly become their late 30s, and it's lucky if they get to marry in their late 40s because there are not much people left because Korea is very small. Yeah.
The last question, unfortunately, I really want to continue this conversation,
Okay,
but
okay, yeah, yeah.
and
Okay.
it is unfortunate for the editor to edit this.
Yeah, yeah.
There's a term in Korea called gold miss. How do you say it in Korean?
아, 노처녀, 노처녀.
Yeah. So
노처녀.
what does this term tell us?
Gold miss. We also say gold miss in like Korean English word. It means that a woman, gold miss? Oh, how do you know? How do you know? I mean, if it's more casual way, we call her 노처녀, which means old virgin in Korean language.
I love these podcasts. I find out so much interesting stuff that I can
I
then use in
finally spoke
conversation.
it. I was very hesitant to use this language, but you made it.
So
I
she is an old virgin. So she's like, because what I said is like it's a successful woman in her 30s who hasn't
mm,
married yet, right? But
yeah,
what you're saying is she not only she hasn't married, but she's obviously adhering to the standards, and she's not having sex either, right?
yeah, yeah. She's an old virgin. Is 노처녀 in Korean? Yeah. How do you get this word? This is not really wow. In the core of Korean, not
I
known to
was
foreigners.
researching Korean culture.
Yeah, so the type of woman who focused on being a lawyer, maybe type of occupation that needs longer dedication to become one. Lawyer or doctor or maybe career woman who suddenly turned maybe like almost 40 and still like she's a virgin because maybe I can also say that if you easily want to understand South Korea is type of a virgin country, if you say you want to marry the decent Korean woman, if you say so, those type of women, wow, I don't. So they are successful, socially successful, not married. But I think what differs them from the Western world is that they are also not yet slept with any other man in their life. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, because
Yeah.
if you meet someone in their early 40s that hasn't married, I mean, there's a
Yeah.
lot of women these days around the
Yeah.
world. They've obviously had an amount of sexual partners in their life. That's the truth, really. Depending on the person,
Mm.
depending on the country, it goes
Oh.
up, it goes down. I know there's certain countries that have more. I actually don't
Yeah.
know the statistics behind that, but she's
Yeah.
had experience. And in
Yeah.
Korea, it's the same. She's
Yeah.
done the career, but she's only focused on that, so to speak. She hasn't had any sex with
Yeah.
anybody. Um, Interesting. I don't think there's a term for men, obviously, just for women, of course.
We have it.
Really?
노총각.
What does that
No,
mean?
no 총각. So no means aged, elderly. Mean no. 총각 is the male virgin.
So that
Oh
movie, The
yeah.
40-Year-Old Virgin. Remember there was a movie, it was called The 40-Year-Old Virgin? So it's that. It's like
Ah,
a Korean also. There are men that are 40 that are virgins. Is this a big thing in Korea?
it's not a big thing. It's very.
Small niche
It's
market.
common. It's
It's
common.
common. It's common.
I mean, if if somebody says that, oh, he's a male old virgin, and oh, okay, but nobody will say, wow, amazing. Nobody will say because oh, they are so, quite a big group portion of people in that status, being a male or female virgin, old. Yeah.
Very interesting. So,
Okay, I didn't.
as a sum up, this was a wonderful way. This was
Well,
I
I
would
want
love
to
to
talk.
not sorry, what?
Yeah, I want to talk more about it maybe next time. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm super like I still have so many questions about the whole virgin thing.
We should have started with just
We
this
should have started with
person
this.
there. Not
Guys, if you
talking.
want to see me and Kaheva continue our conversation about dating and sex
Okay.
and
Yeah.
40-year-old virgins in Korea, please let us know because
Okay.
I think this should be like, oh, we should have just talked about this.
We
I agree.
we should have just started our conversation.
We're talking about Confucianism when it should have been
Yeah.
about virgins the entire time.
Actually, while I was talking throughout this podcast, I was really hesitant to speak this word.
Well, it's a podcast on dating around the world. I mean, culture
Okay.
and dating. So dating is like a big part, but
But yeah.
I really didn't think we are gonna get so deep into it, which I think is wonderful. Um,
Okay.
well, guys, if you have any questions to Kaheva or to me, I mean, obviously I don't know Korean culture as well as Kaheva
Okay.
does, obviously, but
Okay.
about this concept of 4-year-old virgins or whatever you found really really interesting.
Yeah.
Please let us know, comment below. Maybe if
Yeah.
Kaheva has some time, she'll go through your comments.
Yeah.
Also, if you're Korean, how many fridges do you have in your house? We're gonna do a
Yeah.
comparison. Maybe we should do like a
Yeah.
little poll. I have 1 to
Yeah.
2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4. And
Oh.
yeah, anything else? Kaheva, what a funny conversation. I really, really enjoyed this. This
Yeah, me
was
too.
this was like
You're very funny.
well, you're very funny. You make me really funny. It's like two girlfriends catching up, It was like just super easy and fun and
Well,
yeah, and
okay.
it's surprising because it's the first time we meet and, not in person, but,
Yeah, yeah.
remotely,
Yeah.
and it just felt like the easiest conversation ever. So thank you so
Oh,
much. Thank you for taking
thank you.
part.
Thank you. I don't know if we are going to have this podcast again, but make sure, Marina, if you visit South Korea, and if you don't let me know that you're in South Korea, I'm going to call the 911 or or something and let them know that you will not going to let Marina out of South Korea before meeting me.
No, if I'm hoping to go to I have never been to Korea yet. So
You
it's
should
I've never
come.
been and it's really, really on
Wow.
my list. So if I
Yeah.
come, I trust that you're going to show me the culture because
Okay.
we're going to start with the virgins. I'm just joking. But
Oh, we're
no,
gonna start with that.
we will start with the virgins. Yeah, that's the
Okay.
first thing to, and then of course the
Yeah.
food. Um,
Okay.
Kaheva, once again, thank you so much, guys. I hope you enjoyed
Uh,
it. Let us know what you
Thank
thought
you
about
so
this,
much.
and
Yeah.
see you soon, Kaheva.
Yeah.
Bye.
See you, Marina.